Let's talk about the big show.
2-0!
Kind of a big deal.
On its way and gone, a home run.
Blah, blah.
The Yankees win!
It's now time for Team Talk on ESPN Radio 1017 The Team. We're taking your calls at 994-1017. That's 994-1017. Now, Team Talk on ESPN Radio 1017 The Team.
Thank you again for tuning in. This is Team Talk on ESPN Radio 1017 The Team, live from Stadium 66. Great TVs, great food, great drink, and we're going to be here every Wednesday in August. We're here today on a Tuesday, but every Wednesday you can count on us being out here. And we're going to get right to it because, the big news yesterday was that the Mountain West Conference had indefinitely postponed the fall sports and, of course, the impact that makes here in New Mexico. University of New Mexico Director of Athletics, Eddie Nunez, is joining us. Thank you so much, Eddie. I was on the Zoom today. Tough stuff, but I thought you handled it well, and you're kind of coping, and it was probably nice that you had a day to kind of digest, because I know you've been meeting with a lot of coaches, a lot of student athletes, I imagine.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I appreciate it. It was it's been a tough 24 hours, I guess, almost here from when we were told what was going to transpire yesterday, and it's been a lot of up and downs, talking to student athletes, talking to coaches, talking to just again individuals within our university administration staff, and kind of giving everybody guidance. And the tough part with all this is even though the extra hours that I've had to digest the information, the information continues to change by the minute. So,
yeah.
We're learning what's happening with other conferences. We're learning what's happening even with our own situations, that continue to change. So this is an evolving, situation. It's been since the beginning of COVID, and we'll continue to do what we can and manage it to the best of our ability.
Yeah, no, you mentioned other conferences. The Big Ten are doing something similar to what the Mountain West is doing, and the Pac-12 is even taking it one step further in just saying nothing until January 1st. So getting back to our situation here at New Mexico, the use of the word postponed was used in the Mountain West release rather than canceled. So what does that mean in your world? Is a spring football viable and that sort of thing? Kind of define this indefinite postponement and how you see it. And I know everybody's going to take into consideration, Eddie, how things are changing on like an hour-to-hour basis.
Yeah, I think the use of the word postponement by our board of directors, the Mountain West board of directors, was intentional because we wanted to be able to have the opportunity to look at everything. Instead of saying let's pause, in an essence, it's a little bit stronger than just pausing. This was an opportunity for us to really say, look, there's a lot of unknowns. Our several states within our conference are really struggling right now in respect to their situation, and it allows us to look at what is available for this fall. Is there a chance? Is there not a chance? And when I say that, I mean later this fall. It's not going to be any time before September 26th. So that part I do know, and our student athletes know that this is maybe a possibility later in the fall. But one of the true possibilities is the spring. So I do believe that right now, until things tell us differently regarding the fall, 100%, our focus is to continue to manage the situation, continue to prepare every plan that's possible for us to be able to look at what this may look like here at the end of this fall, what it's going to look like for possible spring. The spring poses a lot of questions, a lot of concerns, but it also has some opportunities. So that's our focus right now, is really taking the next step we have to take with this new challenge that's being presented to us.
We're talking with Eddie Nunez. He's the director of athletics at the University of New Mexico on the Daniels Heating and Air Conditioning Cool Take Hotline. And, Eddie, the things looked, different, even just a week ago. It just seemed like we were kind of looking at a September 26th start date. And then, less than a week later, the Mountain West came to this decision. The Mountain West schools came to this decision. Any idea, can you fill us in on maybe some of the key elements that kind of made it gravitate in this direction?
I don't think there was one singular situation that said this is why. I think it was a culmination of everything. If our presidents have already had a lot on their plates. So when you talk, not just our situation here with President Stokes, we're about to bring students back on campus and all the challenges that already poses. So she had a lot on her agenda and her mind about what she's having to deal with already from our campus perspective. You add that to 11 other institutions, and you start considering, okay, these are all challenges that the presidents are facing, plus anything else that's coming down the road from the medical advisory team, the other conferences that are perceiving the thought process of doing what ultimately ended up happening yesterday. All those, I think, attributed to this, and the president's coming to a consensus and saying, you know what, at this point, it's in our best interest that we do this. And I do believe for the mental health and well-being of our student athletes, it is our responsibility to take that step back. As much as I disliked the idea of doing it yesterday, because again, and my reasoning was more so because I stood in front of those young men and young women less than a week ago. And on Wednesday of last week, had a conversation, explained to them what was decided, and to have to stand in front of them again yesterday and tell them that, look, this is basically a complete change from what we discussed, and their enthusiasm last week and all leading up to yesterday has been unbelievable. And they've done everything we've asked them to do, and they've done it the right way, and they've managed the situation unbelievably. And so to stand in front of them, it was hard for me. It was. I was a little frustrated, but I understood. I did, and the kids understood it too. They're frustrated, they're disappointed, but they also understand. Look, we're doing it right here, but doesn't mean everybody's doing it right, and it doesn't mean everybody has the same situation that we have, or what they have is not as much as what we need to have. So those are some of the questions that they understood that we're facing, and it is what it is, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, you reiterated that yesterday in your statement, how the student athletes have done so well in complying, and not only that, doing a ton of community service type of thing, and also contributing to the virtual reading program with the APS elementary school. Yep. So, no, I know you were really proud of their efforts. So I mentioned when we brought you in about, these other conferences, the Big 10, following kind of like in the footsteps of the Mountain West as far as the layout right now. But I mentioned, conversely, the Pac-12 basically saying nothing until after January 1st. So local fans out there that are wondering, again, and you're reiterating that nothing is set in stone by any means. So with basketball season, hypothetically, usually starting the first or second week in November, it's considered a winter sport, okay? The fall sports have been, indefinitely postponed, okay? So for right now, is it kind of like, hey, we're just going to deal with this one thing at a time? The fall sports, we're going to deal with that. We know November is literally 60-plus days away. So what's your thoughts on basketball season for the conference or anything like that? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, no, and all those different questions, and I say it this way.
Sorry about that.
No, you're good. We've looked at every one of those different scenarios with all of our sports, even our spring sports, because we wanted to try to be ahead of the situation. Understanding that the current situation, which is our fall sports, or the ones that we're facing today, have more of a focus that we needed to have to be able to give them some kind of guidance, direction. The winter sports have been very much on the agenda. We've had conversations about the basketballs. We've had conversations about indoor track, men's and women's, swimming and diving. You talk about all the winter sports that are out there. We've had plenty of conversations, but the other factor when it comes to fall sports, winter sports, and spring sports we're still waiting on directive from the NCAA on their championships on what's gonna transpire with the actual championships of each of these sports. Are they going to fulfill them in the calendar year that they've always been? So is volleyball going to have a championship ultimately and I speak from a national level?
Yeah.
In the fall, or are they going to push that to the spring? If they push it to the spring, it gives us some direction, and we can focus on that. And that's the same thing for the basketball. Basketball is a big picture with the March Madness, television contracts, everything else. So there's a lot more going into the conversation. I can't say right now that we're 100% confident that everything is going to be normal as usual when it comes to basketball, because there's right now the one thing that I can't say is nothing's ideal and nothing is the way it was. So there's going to be some modifications of basketball, both men's and women's, most likely. There's going to be some modifications of all the sports, reduction of potential games, reduction of pushing it back. Same situation that we've gone through right now in the fall sports. I see that possibly happening with men's and women's basketball. Is it certain? No. That's the one thing that I've told our student athletes. I've said it to everybody else. The one thing that I know for sure is there's nothing that's certain right now because, again, everything's changing. Great things are happening in some respects and some challenging things are happening in others. And we've just got to continue to adapt as they come.
Yeah, you mentioned the word changing, and just a release that the ACC and the SEC say football plans remain unchanged. So, it's an evolving thing. One thing that was a sure thing was the enthusiasm for your fall sports, Eddie. And I happened to be, for example, at BJ's, and I know it was happening with a lot of all the sports. But this, and I can relate. As a radio station, we've had to make some pivot a little bit, so to speak, ourselves in the last week or so. So these are really, it's uncharted territory. Let's just say that. But, take us back to why things were really seeming to click. I know you've always had a commitment to football. I mean, anybody that spent as much time as you did at LSU knows the impact that a football season can make at a university. And, I mean, you were chomping at the bit, every football season, but this one in particular. So, anyway, I guess that'll test you a little bit and test your staff and test your head coach, Danny Gonzalez, right? The way everybody overcomes this stuff is going to really tell their character and whatnot.
I'm a big believer that how we overcome adversity, makes us stronger. Can put us in a position to really succeed in many, many ways. And this is no different. Were we all excited about football? Absolutely we were, because the energy that you can see in the community, the energy you can see within our student athletes, the energy you can see in our department was evident since day one. And, it's a testament to the passion, the energy that Danny brings, but the staff he's surrounded himself, the buy-in by the student athletes to see how great the possibility was going to be. And it's still there. But, we talk when we're speaking about here, past January, February, March, leading into the situation we're in today, this team was excited, and they're still excited. They're really hungry to get out there and compete. And for us, that is an energy that I have not seen since I've arrived here. And so to see our kids with that kind of enthusiasm, that joy, to want to go out there and represent the Lobos, on the field, myself and Danny were probably the two most excited individuals in the city that wanted to see football happen here for this community, because we know what it was during the Rocky era. We know what at the high of the highs, the passion that this community had. we felt like we were moving in that direction to show that we are here to build something and build something that's positive, build something that's going to be a part of this community, that's going to be all in. You know, you said it earlier about our kids and what they did during COVID. You know, I looked at our staff when COVID, you know, first really when everybody had to start quarantining and everything else and shelter at home, and every one of my staff members, our coaches, our student athletes, they all bought into being committed and saying, we wanted to be leaders in our community. And others have heard me say this. They did. Our student athletes got creative. They did reading programs for area elementary schools. Heck, some of our football student athletes were coaching virtual PE classes. It was unbelievable to see how they, as well as all our student athletes, made the commitment more than ever to be a part of this change. And during COVID, during all these times about spreading the news of social distancing, wearing masks, it's been great. So when you talk about that passion of what we wanted to see for football, it really started in January, and it's just collectively grown through this time, even through COVID. And the challenges we had the best academic GPA we've ever had here at UNM this past spring semester. All our student athletes excelled. So I'm a big believer that the positivity it just resonates in the department, and it helps and just you can see it feed everybody else, and it just has. So we want to be able to get out there. We want to be able to show this community the wonderful opportunity that we're here hopefully to show, but it's just going to have to wait a little bit, and we know it, and that's fine. And we'll just, as Danny has said many times, we're just going to knock the door down and the next door that's put in front of us until we have an opportunity to come out there and run out of the tunnel and represent the Lobos and the state of New Mexico the way everybody hopes we could.
All right. Well, thank you so much for bringing us up to speed, Eddie. And as things kind of evolve, we'll stay in touch. And thank you so much for joining us. And nice work today at the presser. I know that wasn't easy, and we'll keep in touch. Thank you so much, Eddie Nunez, Director of Athletics at the University of New Mexico. You got it. We'll talk to you down the road. All right. We're here live at Stadium 66. Great TVs, great food, great drink. When we come back, more of Team Talk on ESPN Radio 101.7 The Team.